So here we are, and we're on this. Okay, so we're on this boat, and at some point we're going to get off the boat, and we're even on the boat while we're not, the 13 days between, between our meetings. It's still there. With the readings and our remembrances and all of that. So, this is how I'm thinking about it. So, who will we be? Who will each of us be when we leave the boat? And also maybe and who well, maybe even who do each of us want to be when we get off the boat?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on the boat psychologically, and then we get on the boat together, and we're going to each come with. So these are some questions I thought of first thing this morning instead of going back to sleep, which would be maybe something like this: what, at the end of it, or somewhere to explore these questions. What nourished you most about our time together? Nourished or mattered? And then the other is, what disappointed you most? Because I'm guessing each of us comes in with. And I've been nourished, as you could tell from this image. Nourished and had a disappointment. And and I'm so supported on the water that the disappointment is not, I'm not going to say it's no big thing. So I don't want to minimize it, but I have this trust that the disappointment belongs here. And if it's acknowledged, and then we open it up and we find out what was the longing, or to use some of what I understand of Jean's philosophy, the implying we came in with, and the occurring that may not have happened, that's okay to say.
It's okay that disappointment is part of the whole experience of the boat.
Yeah. Yeah. And that sort of fits with that. Yeah. So I'm moving like the boat. It's okay with that. And I think it's also, you've modeled, not the right word, but you've been a welcomer to our inner democracy over and over again in our time together. And so then that's an example of the disappointment and whatever other feelings around that are. They're okay, and then there's a something in them. That's kind of where I am. And in terms of the big picture.
Yeah. I wonder if it would be good to take a breath there and just for a minute what's in the disappointment, that there's something. We're welcoming disappointment. So we're welcoming this disappointment as part of the boat experience. And the water is supportive. I picture this beautiful Caribbean water.
May it be one day. Yeah.
From the dock where the boat was moored. And we're changing. We'll be different. And there's something in the disappointment that is part of the whole thing. And maybe be there.
One of my favorite words, precious, came. So then it would be that in the disappointment, if it's honored, welcomed, There's curiosity about it and heard, or starting with ourselves, or getting, then it's kind of like there's there's a need or a longing in it, or a need or a longing, that wasn't met at that particular point in time, and
hasn't been met yet.
Yes, and it may not be. Doesn't mean there isn't a place for it, and that doesn't mean there isn't a place for articulating it if we make the space for that in that kind of way, and to be to be heard from oneself and then shared in some kind of way. It will help us identify what we're wanting, or longing for, or wanting, or needing, or that kind of thing. So the disappointment is a humanizing thing.
The image that comes to me is that it's a big enough boat to have those unmet longings, needs, desires, and that there's something precious in them.
And the boat holds them, and we're co-creating that boat. And or it's a, that sounds all very well. It's partially deliberate, and what's emerging. It's both, and and when we talked about maybe developing our culture around triggeredness, that's an aspect of that, and maybe maybe that'd be useful to have an explicit part of our culture. It's already happening, where people are expressing their disappointments, or what that kind of thing. It's already happening there. Maybe for some it would be useful to have it be spoken. Disappointments are welcome here and are important to be explored, kind of thing.
Let me say that back. Disappointments are welcome here and important to be explored.
Yeah, and so they don't, and if there's kind of ways that can happen, I think it can, without that just even having that as a statement and an understanding, then there's less chance for defensiveness.
Yes. I pictured, when you said that, I pictured this sign on the boat at the end. Disappointments are welcome here.
That's it.
And important to be precious and important to be explored.
Yeah, so that maybe they'll get accommodated, or maybe they won't, or maybe they will in some partial way, but something will come, may come even just from the being heard.
Right. Something will come even just from being heard, that the boat isn't a solid, static thing, and the people aren't static and solid, and the aren't.
Yeah.
And as we welcome them and articulate them, they open up, they change, even if they aren't met, if the desire isn't met in the way that it was conceived of originally. That it's in process, that it's the life movement in the articulation of the welcome and the articulation of the disappointment, the basic focusing process there. Forward, evolving.
Yeah, forward and evolving. And I can imagine, like in many things, can imagine perhaps some people getting off the boat before we get to the end. You know, they got these, just like cruise ships. They've got these, these mini boats, and some people, might, if they're, okay, if they're not too disappointed, but the disappointment's been heard, and this is what I need, and what, at this point in my life, and thank you for hearing me, and I really feel validated, and I gotta go. And that could happen. So I'm not imagining it will, but it could. And so, but that's all part of that radical acceptance as well.
In a way that has happened, right? That Ruth and
Jane
expressed their disappointment, or
anyway, that's where we are. It's I'm getting this sense of acceptance. I look around and I look at different people in the squares, and I can, I see various faces, and this is our boat.
yeah, this is our boat.